Welcome back to the LCS studios here in Berlin, Germany. Splyce are gearing up for a must-win fight as they're currently down 1-2 against the reigning champions G2 Esports. They've managed to turn things around. They're looking to get one step closer to their 4th LCS title in a row. It starts by winning the quarterfinal. Then they have to win the semi-final against H2K.
Easy.
And then they have to take down the winner of Fnatic or Misfits. That's how G2 would do it, but it all starts here by winning one more game against Splyce.
Yeah, and last game, a bit like game 1, they fell behind early game, where Splyce had a cool plan, play around Wonder as much as possible on that Jace. But we've seen now 2 games in a row, Splyce's inability to really take that advantage and actually push it all the way.
What we're seeing is Splyce have the ability to land a couple of blows. You know, they're throwing some punches, they've run a few curveballs in terms of picks and bans, and it works for a point, but it never gets that knockout punch consistently.
Yeah, it really feels like all the pre-planned things in the early game, like, hey, jungler, you need to go top side and play around top lane, and when he gets a tower, the goal is to push out, get Rift Tail, like, all those things you kind of script out and practice a lot, they are doing really well. But then once you get past the 20-minute mark, and it gets a little bit harder to actually play the map and execute a split push comp against a lot of engage, that's where they seem to struggle. They did have a good play around Baron, where they secured it, but then they lost fights later.
Yes.
And their composition got outskilled once again. So they are putting a lot of focus on the early game, and it's not really been paying off, because even the game they won it in the late game.
It's such a fun series to watch, and it feels like the caliber and the experience of G2 Esports maybe gives them an edge in this deciding game. Splyce have side selection. They picked blue side. When they were blue side last time, we had so many AD carries removed from the pool.
They're doing the same.
I got a question for you about this Cho'Gath. Is it something they should think about? Should remove the games that G2 have won? Cho'Gath has felt very pivotal, has felt very important.
I mean, it's always the big debate of, are we losing because of Cho'Gath, or are we losing because we can't snowball our lead? Will there just be another pick for Expect in the top lane that can do the same? I would say no, just because Cho'Gath is so unique that once you get to the late game, he's a big beefy tank who deals damage. Very few tanks can offer the same. He could pick Maokai. He would just be less of a threat, but of course add like a ton of CC and so on. But we do not see the Tristana ban this time. This is one of the things I mentioned after game 2 of being like, if you wanted to first pick that Lucian that we're looking for in the first one, look to trade 80 carries instead of losing out on the 80 carry. But this time around, they might first pick Tristana. Gets banned away by G2. So it is not the first pick for Splyce.
I mean, Elise is still open. Caitlyn was the thing that you've mentioned several times this series. And those mobility ADCs are no longer available.
Or you can go Jarvan. And if the enemy team goes Caitlyn, it's not bad for you to go for a low mobility AD carry because you already locked in Jarvan yourself. And that is what Splyce are doing. Gragas comes in, of course, and the Caitlyn. No surprises from G2's side. But now, Kobe can play whatever he wants because he's not as afraid of the backline engage of G2.
What does Kobe play? Does he think about something with a little bit more hyperscaling?
I mean, if you want to start playing late game fights, yeah, you could. You could go for hyper carry and say, you know what, G2 is not going to win the early game hard enough. The game where G2 did well early, we had 25 minutes with 1-1 in kills.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So that is an option. And Splyce right now with Jarvan, Rakan, Orianna, that's already a much better late game setup than what we saw last game.
Oh, the pick potential. Mickey's Rakan has been locked in. 5 times played this split. Perkz is rattling off information at a mile a minute. He's played Cassio in the previous game, and Mickey's going to play the Alistar. Why finally, Deficio?
Oh, I think Alistar is really good right now, but this pick and ban phase has not really been about setting your support up for a ton of success. Yeah. So, obviously with Alistar, normally you want to ban away some of the annoying picks against him, but in this case here, there's no like Tam Kench counter pick or anything because, well, Rakan has already been locked in. So Alistar is perfectly fine for Mithy, and I think Alistar is super good in the current meta.
We'll see what Mithy can do with it. A lot of comfort is most played champions this split, and Ash is the first ban.
And you have to remember this Alistar will find the AD carry in the back, and he will be able to engage onto him. They do ban the Cho'Gath now. I think this is smart by Splyce, as we talked about. There is no other champion that can do exactly the same for Expect. be a super tank that has a fine laning phase with damage. And seeing as Splyce can't deal with that because they can't close out the games in time before Cho'Gath is super strong, they have to ban it.
Who gets counterpick here on the side of G2? I guess both Perkz and Expect, because...
Yeah, Perkz already knows the mid lane matchup, so he can pick his mid laner and you save the top lane pick for Expect so that the Gragas remains a flex for as long as possible and Wonder does not get a counter matchup.
Does Cobby risk running like a Twitch or a Cogmore? Something he has done the split. Ashe is off the table. Varus is gone. So many other carry bans.
I think it might just be the Jhin again to get the early push priority over the Caitlyn and then try and win through that. Of course, G2 will not play that. This is a pick I also want to see more from European mid laners. So then Corki is really good right now. You can run teleport on him and he's fine against a lot of these control mages.
All right, Sivir's up. Hyper carries are up. What do you think it's going to be? The Jhin?
Yeah, you don't want to play Sivir against Alistar because you can't really spell shield his combo properly. That's super difficult to do. I really think Jhin is the go-to choice for Copy, and that is exactly what he locks in. Top lane, now we need a blind pick from Wonder. The Jarvan could go top and they can pick a jungler, like Sejuani is available if they want a massive front line on their side to deal with the Corki. And I'm glad that Trashy agrees.
Well done, good sir. Well done indeed. So top lane pick now for Expect.
He's against Jarvan, so opens up almost always pick a lot of different champions because Jarvan is just fine against everything, but he doesn't like dumpster anything completely. So it gives you so many options. Like people play like Jackson, that kind of stuff against Jarvan as well, specifically because you just outscale him. It is Renekton that he's looking at, and we get him in the series, not with the Elise last game, but it is still a matchup where Expect is looking to try and be a bit of a bully.
So Expect on the Renekton. Huge smiles in his face, by the way. On that champion, Expect has got a 5.1 KDA, 4 wins and 1 loss. He has played some phenomenal Renekton games this split.
And this smells like hard engage and tanks and team fighting. Last time, the Jace ruined it a little bit by being a split pusher. This is the true ARAM comps, Trevor. This is run to mid lane, everyone yells go, 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 and you just hammer into each other.
Oh, you said that about the last game. It took 25 minutes.
No, because then the Jace
start.
happened.
Well, true.
The Jace ruined it.
It did ruin it. Okay, so this time around.
Now it is pure
Now
ARAM.
we're going to see it. All right, now we're going to see it. I'll believe you, Deficio, if you'll believe me. When was the last time Perkz played Corki? It's been a long time. Not the split.
I remember the last time he played it after the game, he said, Corki's useless, I don't want to play this again.
Wow, that's because he went 0-2 in the spring split, and it was week 4 was the last time he has played this champion. Cassiopeia was banned away, and the 3-time back-to-back EU LCS champions, G2 Esports, are now defending their title. They are taking down Splyce. If they win this game, they advance to the semifinals and they guarantee themselves a showing in Paris.
And to your little Corki point about Perkz right there. Yes, last time he played it, it wasn't great. But when he joined the LCS, Season 6 Spring, and I love the music here when I say it, Corki was one of his best champions. He had insane coordination with his side lanes and the package plays he made. And now, after some time of being really bad on Corki and it not being too successful, he's back for revenge.
What I am excited about is...
It's paused, by the way, that's why we're here.
We have a brief pause as Trashy's client has crashed, I believe. So we'll quickly get that rebooted and load
Who
back
needs
up.
a client? Just play without.
You were talking about Perkz' package, and I'm happy that Febervin is on the analyst desk because he used his package to great effect several times this split. One of the stronger Corki players.
Yep.
Definitely very impressive use of side lane pressure.
I mean, that's the thing. Febervin has always been very good at that. And it's something a lot of people are actually really enjoying.
Yes, exactly. And we'll see what Perkz can do with it. It always sucks when the pause happens instantly because part of my job is building up the hype as we get into the game.
But then you can do it again when we're about to get in.
But then it's just awkward because it's like I've used some of the magic, right? But G2...
I think you just need to repeat yourself.
Okay, I will.
People don't remember anything anyway. They forget after 30 seconds. You can just repeat yourself.
G2 are now defending the title. We mentioned this the first time that they've been in the quarterfinals because they're usually in the semifinals. Have done so all 3 previous splits. And I remember about 2 weeks back or 3 weeks back, Mithy being very boisterous and full of gusto and bravado on the analyst desk, saying how It didn't matter who was in front of him. He was going to take them down and win his next title. It's a little bit out of character on Camry for Mithy, because he's a little more reserved at times.
Well, he used to do it before it kind of burned him at Worlds last year. But obviously, yes, he's been more humble until now. When he feels confident in Europe, he feels confident saying they will beat whoever's in front of them. I'm still looking at some of the next matches where, in case they do win this one, like you have teams like H2K and Fnatic. Like, if Splyce are this close with G2 Esports, like those two teams should be better than Splyce right now.
Oh, it's very exciting. Or are we underselling Splyce? Those are the questions
I mean,
we'll find
that's
out
also fair.
later in the playoffs.
Judging from the regular season, right, H2K and Fnatic should be better teams. But obviously Splyce have shown up today with some of the new ideas they've been working on the last 2 weeks.
And they've got no more room for error. Splyce are down 1-2 in the series. If they lose, they're done. They're in the regional qualifiers. They crash out of the quarterfinals. And they need to try advance to Worlds by running the gauntlet. Once again, G2 Esports in the quarterfinals. The defending chances they want to win another title. They got one more game to do it.
Well, I'm so hyped.
But to go back to, just briefly looking at the next stages, there is reseeding that comes into place because of the two-group system. So if G2 are to win, then it means Misfits will face Fnatic, because the third seed will face the first seed, and that means G2 will play H2K. So we need to see how that works out.
But if Splyce wins, then you're going to get Splyce facing Fnatic.
Yes.
Because they're going to play the opposite group, and Misfits will actually play H2K. So there is a tough road for either team, no matter who wins today, with the two guys waiting in the semifinal.
Before we get to that, it's official. Kobe on the Jhin once again. Pretty standard nowadays to see that Doran's ring as a start. We see that more and more. What do you think of these two now matchups? Caitlyn Alistair into Jhin Rakan.
So the funny thing is that both supports, the value they mainly bring is actually just engage straight onto them. Like the heals are fine, but they're not like super insane. So a lot of it is actually setting up combos with your AD carry. Like Rakan goes in, get a knock-up into a snare from Copy. That's a good trade. Bot lane, you have an Alistair combo into like a Caitlyn trap. So a lot of comboing between them. But once again, like both these supports are mainly picked to make plays with the rest of the team. So if a team is going to really get an advantage in the bottom lane, it's going to be through a jungler coming down, a mid laner coming down. And then the supports are the ones starting the fight. And what both teams basically said in this game was, you know what? Clearly the early game is not the most important thing. Because when Splyce win the early game, G2 still come back and have an even game. And when G2 won the early game, it took 25 minutes before they really cracked open the game and actually started truly winning it, while they were just waiting to outscale. So both teams are saying, we want scaling. And that's why you have a massive frontline tank on the side of Splyce, same on the side of G2, and scaling carries as well.
Oh, I'm so glad you gave that summary. If anybody has just joined us, Game 1 of this series was fantastic. 50+ minutes back and forth, crazy, crazy fights.
Yeah. But in the mid game, that's where Copy can shine. Because his scaling is not the same as like an Orianna or Corki and Caitlyn. But his mid game is super good on Jhin. So Splyce, a little bit like Game 1, should look to play around the bottom lane. One should hit level 6 and 7 on this Jhin here. See if they can actually create an advantage around Copy himself. Because then once he gets Infinity Edge, it's a massive spike for him in the mid game where he's going to be strong.
And when Copy played Jhin earlier this series, he actually dealt a lot of damage. While he was unable to pick up a lot of kills because his opponents had, well, hundreds and hundreds of armor.
Yeah, that's kind of...
He was in fairly good positions, got a lot of good snares and curtain calls down. Copy was, however, caught out by that Whisper reload mechanic a couple of times. So let's see how well these two guys played out. Just even laning across the board, even CS, top, middle, as well as bottom lane. And nobody's really building up an advantage yet. It's too early in the game.
And good trade here from Senkooks against Perkz. Should be a bit of a farm matchup in the mid lane, but let's see if we can actually force anything. Perkz, of course, running teleport. So taking some of these trades are not the end of the world for him. Bot lane as well. One of the reasons Jhin can push in Cait now so easily is that the patch 7.16 nerfs to Caitlyn did definitely affect her early game quite a lot. Her Q dealing less damage to all the minions it's hitting through. Obviously means her pushback is weaker. And lost some damage on her trap as well in the early game. So a lot of Caitlyn's just go like 3 ranks in Q because you don't have so much early game damage anyway with the trap. But again, then you kind of lose out on a little bit of wave push because it got nerfed. So the early game definitely is affected. Caitlyn is no longer just a stomping AD carry.
Yeah. It gutted her in solo queue.
Oh, a lot.
Still a lot of power.
It's almost like solo queue is a lot about laning phase.
Yeah, who knew? Win lane, win game. That's where it starts. Hasn't necessarily been the truth this series, which has actually been very entertaining to watch because the mid game, for better or worse, lots of question marks on both sides of the rift. Right, Trick, by the way, he spent a little bit of time in that top lane a minute or two ago. Whether or not it was setting up for counter gank or something. This time around.
This next one as well. So when you have Renekton, it's always easy to play around him. Wonder is very close to his tower though. He's gonna need Wonder to jump aggressive towards Expect.
It feels a little bit forced. Expect dives all the way through.
They could try and get a flash. Now the flag is down.
All right, body slam connects. Wow, so simple.
All right, I guess Wonder wasn't fast enough when he saw Trick, and he died.
Yeah, neither of us really expected that. Wonder's been...
See, I thought there was just going to be a flash force, and Wonder would be like, oh, sucks, I don't have a flash anymore. But the setup, Expect landed his stun also, shortly after Trick actually connected.
And the two players, a lot of criticism has been levied. Trick and Expect, they've been good all series long. Trick finds first blood with the help of Expect in a lane matchup that really you want to. You want to get that Renekton even further ahead. And this sets Splyce up.
So two flashes were used to get the kill. Problem is Trash is on Sejuani, who is not the fastest early jungler. Level 6 Sejuani, though, can be very good with ganks if you have enough damage on your top laner to actually kill whoever you're in front, because Sejuani will not offer that much in return. But I think Trashy could try and go up and punish Expect, and he's on his way now. Perks is hovering to the top side, but he's not moving all the way up. Trashy, no level 6 yet.
All right, Slice and Dice is going to clear a lot of space. There's the Slice, the Dice into the river. Flag and Drag gets a knock up. Arctic Assault comes down. Permafrost is going to help out, and that's going to lock down Expect. The kill should be donated and done relatively easily. No flash, easy target.
Yeah, Wonder actually saying, you know what, that gank before wasn't even that worth it because you used both summoners, or both of you used your summoners, and now quick return gank from Trashy, and we keep the tradition going of top laners being active early on with the junglers. Happened all games so far, and it's 1-for-1. The kill went to Wonder though, where on the other side Trick picked it up.
So technically a little bit of extra gold in Wonder's back pockets. He's already used his teleport though, so technically like combat advantage to Expect.
Right, but Wonder will get his TP up before Expect in case Splyce want to use that window in the bottom lane, because around that time you will have level 6 on copy for sure, and you might be able to actually make a play on that side with the TP advantage, but we have to see. It is an Alistar, can be tough to go too aggressive on him. Trashy once again really wants to hit level 6, but he's not finding any camps he can actually steal away.
No, nothing yet. 28 CS to 38, looking at the goal difference. Plus 300 for Trick, thanks to him having that kill. Gleaming Quill, arguably one of the most useless abilities in the game. Not even going to cancel the interrupt. Mickey and Cobby, a little bit of a trade back and forth.
Top lane again, Trick is helping Expect push out while Trashy is on the top side, but Wonder's flash is still up again. It was never used in the first place. And this time around, he probably knows if Trick is around.
Well, with Dominus now, Expects a more difficult target, but still flashless. Do you reckon? Well, Trashy's lingering,
he
so
should.
Maybe the answer is going to be simple. Expect. There goes Cole the Meek, Slice and Dice. Cataclysm is already popped. Flag and Drag goes out. Trashy, not going to throw down anything just yet. Takes a couple turret shots underneath. Now all of a sudden, Trashy's body blocking. Flash used defensively. Barrel actually sends Trashy to safety. And G2 unable to counter that play.
Doesn't matter if they pick tank junglers, they're still top lane Trevor looking for these plays here. Trick and Expect are back to almost full HP, and they will just push Splyce away from this turret here. Mithy's on his way as well to just make sure they can take as much time up in the top lane as possible and even get some damage on tower.
Well, last time, Mickey was actually roaming with that Tom Kench. He had some very good plays. Can do similar setups, actually, with the Rakan, but he's got to be careful. There's a lot of G2 members around. Mickey...
And they don't have Wonder here.
All right, Wonder, where is he at the moment? Making his way from base. Blue buff is slowly being challenged. Mickey's alone here, by the way. Fancies his chances, but Trick's able to smite it.
All right, he didn't get it, though. Mithy will also go back to the bottom lane and join the AD carries. Once again, Copy hit his level 6. BF sword for him as well. Strong point for Jhin in the game. Perks with the package. See if he's able to do anything with it. We'll just steal a few Raptors. So no mana, though.
All right, Valkyrie's out. We'll get 1, 2 of them. Use that one clean and safe. Deficio, as we've got a small gold lead for G2, and you've already mentioned both of these teams can just 5v5 later in the game. What happens for the next 10 minutes? Before we get to those ARAM, those team fights that pick a lane and go face to face.
Right, so the easiest lane for G2 to play around is Renekton in the top lane to try and get his tower, where I think for Splyce, they can either play around Wonder with the Jarvan or go bot lane, as I said earlier, with this Rakan Jhin combo. You don't really want to necessarily spend a lot of time ganking mid, where it's much easier to try and secure a side lane turret, because they have a bit of setup in both lanes. Jarvan's own CC, Rakan CC into Jhin Snare. Trashy is just hovering around mid for now. Let's see if we can get something.
All right, Arctic Assault comes up. Perkz has already used the flash, gets stunned down. Shockwave is available, not even going to get used. Trick secures, Trashy secures the kill.
Easy kill for him in mid, but obviously, as we said before, they can't really get a tower for it. They just take the free kill, force the summoner from Perkz, and now they're looking for a bigger play. This was just a little step towards the grand plan, which is to open up the map by taking one of these turrets, and also they get an Inferno Drake from it, so very good gang from Trashy, and no vision actually from Perkz, which was quite surprising.
Oh, remember Shockwave wasn't used earlier. Now Trick is in trouble. He's flashed away to Mickey. Inferno Drake picked up by Splyce. Going to be very important for the team fights. Mickey is using the quickness to distract the back end. Cobby's already down, and G2 get 2 kills.
Quick turnaround from G2, used the TP from Perkz, and Expect walked all the way down. So despite losing the Corgi, first, as we said, the one little kill wasn't a big deal for Splyce. They needed something more if they really wanted to get ahead. And they actually took the Drake, but got punished by G2 Esports.
Well, that Drake might become pivotal later in the game if these team fights happen. And here's a replay of the setup.
It actually looked kind of risky with Trick, but they knew there was TP from Perkz in just a few seconds. And right now, Jarvan is still sitting top lane. G2 feeling confident they can go for the fight and Cobby. As a Jhin, once you use your flash, you're not getting out of this one. He will go down, so will Mickey. And I like the collapse. Good call from G2, and they're still saving Expect's TP to match. Wonder actually had to use his and cancelled as well in the last fight.
All right, so Expect's got the TP advantage for now. 11 minutes in, G2 with a 1,000 gold lead, and Mickey on the road.
Mickey's all alone.
A bit of cowbell being thrown down. Blast cone. Oh, sends Mithy over the wall. I love seeing that. Blast cone mechanics.
This makes it very hard, though, for Splyce to play around Jhin without TP and Wonder. Welcome to the LCS playoffs.
Where the Demacian standard in the face is a thing. Oh, very good lockdown onto Perkz. Interrupted the Valkyrie.
Oh,
that's a kill. Oh, that was so well done.
Splyce just picked up 2 kills against Perkz, where the first one, you're like, okay, Trashy sneaks away, and that was great. Whoa, okay, he executed that one nicely. And then they outplay Perkz as well here in the last one.
Well, Trashy's showing us how good his early game Sejuani is. It's better than early game release. It's just good decision-making and punishing the flashless targets.
Screw the side lanes, Trevor. If you can just go mid and get free kills on Perkz, just do that. Trashy being one step ahead.
All right, Ace in the hole comes down. Body blocked by Cobby once more. Something we've seen a lot of times in the previous game. So Splyce just behind in gold. There is some support for Trashy, as Wonder and Senkux were near the top lane. And Sven continues to chip away at this bottom tower. Fisher, we've got an even early game again.
We do, yeah, I know. And both comps, strong team fights. I think Perkz got very surprised by the fact that he was actually the target from Trashy.
I want to ask you a pretty difficult question to answer. So I'll accept it if you dodge. Which team has had better team fights this series?
G2.
Why do you say that?
I mean, first of all, they've had better comps to team fights, so it's been easy for them to execute it. But I think the game 1 was obviously great team fighting from Splyce with their Camille Morgana composition. But outside of that one, game 2, they never had a chance to really win team fights. And game 3, they had a weak team fighting comp as well with like no tank. So it's kind of easy to say G2,
right? Because
again, they've had just way better late game drafts.
The next question then,
except for game 1, of course.
As this game is likely headed in the direction of big team fights, do you think Splyce will be able to challenge and beat G2 with team fighting comps?
You know what, Trevor? They have to. I don't think necessarily G2 Esports is like a godlike team fighting team per se, but if you have massive tanks and the enemy team has 380 carries that can't kill your tanks, then it's fairly simple, it's fairly easy to win them. Splyce have to be able to win the late game fights here. Cobby is the one who might find it a little bit difficult to play Jhin versus some of these tanks and Alistar, but everything else is screaming late game fighting.
Late game team fights for Splyce. Show up, go big or go home. Last split, Splyce crashed out in the quarterfinals. Same thing is at risk of happening now. Senkax gets jumped on by the Valkyrie, but a good flash gets him to safety. The shockwave gets getting damage onto Perks, but there's no support for Splyce, so flashless Orianna now in the mid lane.
After all the plays that happened here where there was no TP and Wonder, Splyce said, you know what, we have to look for something else. They went mid lane. Perks clearly did not expect it, died twice to it actually, so 2 very good kills for Trashy. Has now meant that Splyce are sitting with just few items, or sorry, gold, a little bit of gold behind G2 Esports.
I mean, the game's even, 600 gold at 15 minutes. If you look at the item spikes as well, Triforce versus Marilla Nomicon, iEdge versus iEdge in the 80 carries. Wonder a little bit behind, but I think that's because he's sitting on a lot of gold. Yeah, 1100 right now. And he opted to finish the Ninja Tabi as opposed to your first big item.
This is what I wanted to see from G2, is just go up and make sure Expect can actually play super aggressive on Renekton and let him get his top lane tower down. Trick just hovering around the lane is enough for Expect to go aggressive. It does mean there's a cross-map play in the makings. Just do step on a trap though, and Sven is already backed away.
Oh, those cupcakes, even from another dimension or timeline, are just so delicious. Trashy steps on it. But if you look at the tower HP on the minimap, Splyce's outer turrets are really starting to fall low.
But they might try and catch Perks again.
All right, Valkyrie's already used flashes available. The entrance comes up, Perks flashes over the wall, tagged by the curtain call, and Senkax gets the kill credits.
Whenever Splyce are thinking about going to another lane, they realize, oh, there's a free kill mid. Let's just go mid again. And Perks, using flash one more time, he ends up getting caught in the mid lane, and it's a great setup from Splyce, using so many of the strong engage tools, and they actually want to get kills bot lane.
All right, Senkax is coming from the river, so Mickey and Trashy need to buy time. Mithy and Sven decide to engage. Trap comes down, rooted in place. Glacial Prison as well. Now Mithy's the target. Trick is coming to the support. Mithy manages to escape a few seconds longer. All of a sudden, Trick's down. Teleport's channeled by both top laners. Wonder gets the flag and drag, and the Cataclysm. 5 members of Splyce running for their life. Perks teleported into the bottom lane. Flash forward by Expect, instant retreat. He gets chunked out by the crit from Cobby, and Splyce pull it off.
Yeah, big plays from Splyce here. All starts in the mid lane where they kill Perks and they walk bot lane instantly and take down Sven and Mithy. Really good use of the big tanks here with engaged tools. We're also looking at the Rakan jumping in every single time and just setting up Splyce here for success. And they even got the TP from Perks. So this is after they kill the Corki. They go bot lane, and again, when you have the super strong front line that can just start fights, when you get an opportunity, you go for it. Just like this. Great ulti from Trashy. No flash used from Sven early on, and he gets caught by it. And now Mithy, yeah, you might have your Alistar ulti, but you're never getting out. And this is just a great start from Splyce, and exactly what they need. The mid game with this Jhin is going to be good, and they want to get an advantage before the late game team fights.
And Splyce showing up, and when you come out of the replay, you'll see the kills. 303, 100% kill participation for Trashy Sejuani, 202 on Senkax. The 2 guys, they're going to be so important in the late game team fights. I mean, I've got the gold, I've got the kills.
Trashy has been better in the early game on Sejuani than on Elise.
I know, what does that tell you about his Elise?
Nice flame. He did get his top laner ahead, so it wasn't all, you know, bad.
It wasn't all bad, but it wasn't what we were hoping to see.
We always want to see 5-0 Elise in the early game. Yeah. The 3-0-3 Sejuani is not what we expect, but we got it anyway.
Oh, and it's even more impressive because it was against a Corki. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Corki over and over.
That's like the ganks at first. The fact that the first one worked was great execution from Splyce, and then the second one, they made it even better when they blocked the Valk and everything with the Rakan engage. And they've just been able to shut down Perks in the early game.
Okay, we're getting into the mid game, and while Splyce have been able to pull a small advantage in the gold, they've got themselves that Infernal Drake, which is starting to gain even more value. And we've seen Splyce struggle to push the next few steps in their favor. Struggle to get control in the mid game. And that's what I want to keep my eyes on.
What's happening there?
They're really pissed off the hill.
Yeah, they got real mad.
Yeah.
All right. With the Rakan here from Mickey, I'm really hoping to see him be active on the map even more. Bot lane dive.
This should be pretty trivial. Cataclysm comes down. Expect's got no flash. Easy slice and dice out. Tower first blood, though, goes to Splyce in the top lane.
But this Renekton has been really good for G2 because it gives them control in that lane. We talked about how Jarvan, like, a lot of the lanes, it's hard for him to kind of dominate the lane. Like, he often is much more about joining the team for these skirmishes and team fights. So Renekton is able to actually have pressure in this bottom lane, push him all the way down to the tower, and that sets up Perks to make a play like this with the package. So say, you're stuck on the tower, you're not getting out, that's a free kill. The Rift Ult is being started because Perks is on the bottom side, no TP from him.
Do they have enough damage to kill it in time?
Oh, they gotta hurry.
I mean, it's Cobby reloading on Jhin. Oh, get that eye, shoot it in the eye. Come on, 4,000 HP. I don't think it's going to happen. Let's see. Down to the wire. Oh, so close. So close.
Well timed by Splyce.
Efficient, yeah, okay?
Knew exactly how much damage they had in that DPS check.
But that's actually pretty huge because the towers for G2 have been pretty well defended. Now, all of a sudden, G2, they secure the dragon, but the mid turret is the target.
Yeah, could we get some sort of fight in the mid lane? Because Splyce have 4 members in here. G2 on the way. Expect coming from top side.
And Wonder's teleport is still on cooldown for a few seconds longer. One more little bop from the Rift Herald. Not going to be enough to take the tower down. Nor does the final shot. Oh, survives by the hair.
Oh, Senkus, he wants
his chinny chin.
Oh, he's looking for it. He's like, guys, cover me.
They're going to tank it. Oh, but I've seen this go wrong.
They can just wait. It's fine. G2 are resetting. They will get the tower. It's just Perks right there.
And Deficio, 20 minutes in, even towers. 1 dragon apiece. 500 gold is so little.
And it's the same thing again. This Splyce team that lost 2-0 to Unicorns, lost 2-0 to H2K, coming into playoffs, are going toe-to-toe with G2 Esports. And this time around, they have a much better team fighting comp than we've seen in some of the previous games.
And it gives me more questions than answers. Are Splyce that much better? Are G2 not at the level we were expecting? How good will they show up against Fnatic and H2K next week?
If they even get there.
If they even get there. Of course, if Splyce lose this game, they will be locked into the regional qualifier along with the Unicorns of Love. And that will mean they'll be fighting for that 3rd and final seed to the World Championships. Now, that is what's on the line for Splyce. G2, in a similar fashion, depending on how the rest of playoffs plays out, G2 have got a number of championship points, so they've got a small lead in that 2nd seed race. But Mithy said it, G2 said it, they want first seed. They want to win the split.
Oh yeah, it would be such a big disappointment for G2 Esports if they don't even make the final. Like, you win 3 splits in a row, then you don't crash out in quarters. That's not how it works, Trevor, if you're G2 Esports. They've had a rough split, you know, a lot of ups and downs, very slow start as well. And while we were kind of looking at them being back in form, they play Fnatic to get 2-0 just before playoffs. And again, question marks were like, ooh, okay. Fnatic looks like the best team right now, and that was something G2 is still not used to.
Yeah.
Like, they are used to being the #1 team in Europe.
And it does feel like G2 is marginally ahead of Splyce this series. If you look at all the games, you look at some of the drafts, some of the decision-making, at least to my uneducated eye, G2 2-1 up. They've got some advantages, and they've shown they can win these games. It doesn't really matter what time it is.
I mean, I think we've just seen a different priority in how you want to draft. Splyce have put more emphasis on early game in some of these games, which is meant when they fail to fully execute that, they got to late game against G2 with the late game comp, and they would lose most of the games in that area there. Ooh, let's see a miss from Trick.
That barrel definitely wasn't great, but there's not a lot of support for Splyce. So what else was committed? It was just the barrel, and they get Trashy's flash.
And because, again, that we have seen these come from Splyce that couldn't win late game in game 2 and 3, the fact we get one in game 4 that can makes me excited, because that's, again, now we get this question like in game 1. Okay, can they actually beat G2 in the late game fights? Can they do it again? Can they go to game 5? They have the chance in this game. They're dead even right now. Orianna is still scaling, 2 items completed. The Jhin is strong at this point in the game. And they have these big tanks in the front, just like G2. So it really comes down to, can tanks get in there, maybe catch out a squishy, set up a shockwave from Senkooks, create a pick that way, or which team can kill the front line first. Yeah. You get these really long team fights where it's all about killing the tank in front of you.
Oh, that means I run out of breath. All right, Trick gets rooted in place. The quickness is not used yet by Mickey. I think he's holding on to it until Trashy arrives. Trashy's interrupted by Miffy. Now Trick's turning around. He's got no explosive class available to him. Shockwave is available to Senkax. He hasn't pulled the trigger.
Oh,
now
Mickey
catches two. Mickey escapes with his life. Curtain Call being fired by Kobe, but it's interrupted by Perks, who uses his package to escape. Nobody dies yet. Those long, drawn-out team fights, Deficio, they're starting right now.
Got a small taste of it right there. No one died. Mickey stayed alive, managed to get out just in time. He's now going for the Ardent Sensor build here on this Rakan. He's going for the tanky version, the Righteous Glory. Colossus as his keystone as well. Just get in G2's face.
All right, Perks takes a couple of tower shots as Finn looks to finish off the tower. Does go down. Minion gets the final auto attack, and G2 reclaim the gold lead as we approach 25. But that's just a number. It doesn't mean anything right now.
And while Kobe will have a little bit of a harder time in the late game, Caitlyn and Corki, fantastic scaling on both of them, especially Corki. Like, we often look at 4 fully completed items from him, and you just go like, okay, this is insane damage. Like, when you get your static shift and your rapid fire cannon, you can literally carry these team fights on your own. And then there's a Caitlyn next to you who's looking to try and do the same. So the backline damage from G2 is fantastic, and they're gonna try and kill tanks. One of the problems though from Corki is getting penetration in the late game is actually not that easy.
Yeah.
And because you're dealing so much magic damage, you need to get a Void Staff if you want to deal proper damage to tanks.
Very rarely do we get to see games go long enough to see that Void Staff. Let's see if this one does. Mention the time frame. Look at the items. 2.5 item spikes being picked up by everybody. Thornmail, Black Cleaver for Wonder in the top lane. Expect the Titanic and the Black Cleaver himself. Eye edges and static shifts for both AD carries. So, like, it's escalating, right? The damage.
It's just building up, man.
Yes.
We're going to get this back and forth late game that's going to be super awesome, where every single player needs to perform at a maximum, 100%. If one guy makes a mistake here, he can lose the game for his entire team.
Look at the setup on the minimap. Not a lot of vision for Splyce, but they're trying to contest river control. 8 seconds until Infernal Drake spawns. Splyce have already got one on their side. Picking up a second would be hugely beneficial. Going up against a double 80 carry comp, but it's G2 that maybe at the first engage. That's it. Oh, to Sven. Is he taken down? They're Trashy on a rampage. Now Perks running for his life. Curtain Call is going to not find a target. 1 and 2. Third connects through. The fourth does as well. A 3-man knockup from Mickey. They've taken down Perks. A defensive flash from Miffy. The tower dive from Splyce. And they get themselves 3.
You asked if Splyce could win some of these late game fights, and they're showing some great moves in this game here. Sick engage here from Mickey, straight onto Sven. No summoners even used in time. He just got caught out by that fantastic Rakan setup. And then you get follow-up. There's enough damage on the side of Trashy and Wonder to still kill these squishy targets on G2 if they can get onto them.
Man, are they doing that every single time? The second Infernal is going to give them even more damage. And Deficio, this just reminds me of, oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you're so fine.
Yes,
you blow my mind.
What a beautiful engage. And you just get a great follow-up. Wonder and Trashy takes him down. No Orianna is needed here.
Nope.
No, you don't even need that. You just want your big tanks and a little bit of assistance from Kobe. You got to keep in mind, there's like a Black Cleaver on Wonder, so his base damage plus that is good enough to take down squishies. Great setup, and Sven will wonder, why did I go down the river?
Oh, 0 damage for Sven. He was caught out, of course. That's how that whole engage started.
And we have to remember with these double Infernals, like Jhin is one of the AD carries stacking the most AD in the game. That gets even better with Infernal. So while the Caitlyn might look scary in the late game, these Drakes might actually put Copy high enough to say, you know what? I can also deal some serious damage.
I know you don't care much for the elemental Drakes. He doesn't. It's just a fact. He doesn't get excited
like Infernals.
But the next one is an Infernal as well. 3 Infernals in a row for Splyce when their backs are against the wall, when they cannot afford to lose another game because their playoff run would be terminated. And RN, Jesus, throws 3 Infernals their way.
Well, Splyce had to work for it. And setups like the one we saw just before, that is them saying, you know what, G2 Esports, we're going to outplay you right here, and then we're going to get the Inferno. There's no luck here. They're not getting gifted anything. Yep. They're taking it.
So, Deficio, let's pivot the point of view a little bit, because Splyce have been sort of the playmakers. They've engaged, they've caught Sven out, they have started a lot of these plays. when does G2 start it? Because we're nearly 30 minutes into the game. It's still very, very even. Gold-wise, item-wise.
Yeah, and at this point, like, both teams can start it. Like, there's no, like, oh, we have to wait another 20 minutes. No, no, no. Both teams can definitely start fighting already. Perkz is not sitting on 3 items just yet. He would love to get there, but he does have a package in case someone is out of position to maybe start a fight. Mithy's flash being down makes it a little bit harder for the Alistar to start it, but then you're looking at Trick to be the man to set it all up.
Yeah.
So right now, both teams are in position to fight, and they find out Trick.
My words. Expect gets... No! He survives! Curtain call now being body blocked by Sven. 90 caliber net puts him into safety. Expect survives. Is there anything available to take? Not just yet.
Well, Baron is alive. Let's see in terms of vision. There's no control wards from Splyce to kind of take over the entire river. There is a ward in the back of the pit here from G2. They're starting the Baron, Expect with TP, so he's gonna be able to join the fight.
Oh, it's Perkz that's teleporting through the mid lane. Expect teleporting to the top lane. Here comes Trick. Where's the barrel? Splits up Senkax and Kobe. Trick's alone. G2 aren't there. They're not ready to fight. A 2-man knocker from Mickey.
Expect cancel his teleport just when Trick went all in.
While Sven now forced to flash for his life. Wonder looking for another target. The flash knockup. Now Expect is trying to slice and dice and Cole whatever meek he can. Lock down the deadly flourish. Will not find a member of G2. And G2 Esports, they just lose Trick.
Splyce, they punish that miscommunication from G2 with the cancel from the Renekton. And Expect probably felt like he was too far away from the fight anyway to be there in time, and Trick ended up going in and just dying on his own. Nice response once again from Splyce, but we're starting to see some of the damage from Perkz. When they went all in to try and chase onto Sven, Perkz stood there and he delivered some serious DPS.
And we're seeing G2 just a little bit not on the same page. When G2 lost to Fnatic in week 10 of the regular season, it felt like they were a little disconnected. If you look at the setup, Trick goes in and the team just not responding in time.
It gets cancelled just when Trick goes in, and that's where it's most likely Expect not calling early enough that he's going to cancel his teleport, and then Trick is already engaging. And that makes it difficult. Therefore, you can't really blame the Gragas and say, oh, yeah, what a mistake, you know, because the team call was to engage.
Yeah, but that's more what I'm referencing, right, is the fact that G2 a little bit not on the same page. A little bit more. We see these struggles that have followed G2 in what has been their weakest regular season performance in the entirety of the EU LCS. We need to fix that here.
They have to. Splyce with the double Infernal. Strong late game team fight. Are feeling very good. We still yet to see the big shockwave from Senkux. We didn't get it last game. We want to see this game here. There's a small fight in the bottom lane that won't do a whole lot.
One that did not want it.
No, he was like, yeah, you know what? I don't even care about Renekton with double damage items. Just gonna step away. He's actually TPing right now straight to Baron. There's no TP from Expect, he has to run.
All right, Trick is trying to be body blocked here by Mickey. Mickey can dash over the wall. Got flash available to him as well. Baron down to 2,700, gonna peace out. Now Trick is being taken. A 5-man knockup by Miffy. Sven is being jumped on, gets caught out by the deadly flourish. Kobe turns the attention. Perkz is down, huge damage. Shockwave still available, and the curtain call flying across the G2 lineup. Senkax is still holding on to that cooldown. Trick and Expect trying to turn it around. Wonder doesn't even go down to ace in the hole. Expect still alive. He was tanking all of the damage for days. So far, it's a 1-for-1. Shockwave finally comes back. Expect and Trick are down. Sven and Miffy need to somehow defend whatever Splyce do.
That was a really good Baron call from Splyce. When they saw the Renekton in the bottom lane, they knew the TP was not available, so they start the Baron. Worst case for them, they get a fight without Renekton there early on, and they actually found the engage. After stepping away from Baron, Perkz came from one side and they turned around and killed him. That was a key part of this team fight, and now they will secure the Baron. No one is going to try and steal it away because Trick is still dead.
20 minutes ago, Deficio, you said these team fights would be long, they would be drawn out, and they would be intense, and that is exactly what we are seeing.
And these tank v tank fights here, it's always about killing frontline first or one carry being out of position. Those are the two things you look for, which tank dies first or which carry gets caught. This one, it was Perkz. When he comes in from the top side, notice how he wants to keep walking into the river to join his team, and then he's getting caught up by Mickey again on this Rakan. A lot of supports, they respect Mickey's mechanics. We're seeing them in this game here when he's finding those little squishies, being it Sven, being it Perks, instant engages.
Man, Mickey playing so well all series long. And you know what? Again, Splyce are just showing their teamfight power is fantastic. They are coordinated. They're finding the right targets. And like the target switch, the moment Perks becomes available, instantaneous from the whole team.
And that's always the thing, man. You need the carries alive because they're the ones who can kill the tanks. If you find a carry out of position, you jump them and you all in them. Everything needs to be used to just kill that one carry because then you will win the following fight. The enemy team will not have enough damage to finish off your front line.
To Fisher, Splyce have got more dragons this game than they took against G2 in the entire year. They got themselves their third Infernal while we were in that replay. The inner turret in the mid lane has fallen, and with a 4,000 gold lead, Splyce are trying to force a game 5.
And 35 minutes into this game, Kobi's already sitting on 637 AD. So this Jhin will have so much AD with the Infernal Drakes in the late game. He will hit like a truck. So will the carries on the side of G2, but as we have seen now, longer fights, try and kill the tanks, and then look for the opening.
And of course, this Corki relatively low range. The moment he tries to get into auto, he is also at risk of being caught out by this damage.
We saw it just before here.
What do you think of Mickey's build so far? He's got himself that Zeke's Convergence to complement as his third completed item.
I don't see it very often before like the last support item, but obviously seeing as he is diving into the backline every time and he's building this tanky Rakan, not the Ardent Sensor version, he feels like he can probably stay in long enough to get the full effect of the active. And of course, you know, it really helps when you are buffing up your beautiful AD carry. Give him a little bit of extra punch.
An extra punch. He already hits like Optimus Prime. Now you're trying to upgrade that even more. One gigantic crit, fired out, and the tower gets chunked down. So that's the 5th tower of the game secured in favor of Splyce. They've got the kill lead, the tower lead, the gold lead, the dragon lead, and now they need to break open G2's base.
And it's important as well here to highlight that Sven got his last Whisper fully upgraded. Nothing on the side of Kobi just yet, but he's not dealing with the same amount of armor, because if you look at the two frontline tanks on G2 in the Renekton and the Gragas, you can see quite a lot of magic resistance being in there as well, respecting Senkuk. So Kobi is not dealing with these like insanely beefy tanks just yet. Especially the Renekton is actually sitting at a fairly low armor point this late in the game, only sitting with the stone plate, so he's on 138 armor. That's a piece of cake to burn through as a Jhin.
Especially with all of the additional tools, Night Vow, Zeke's as well. All right, Splyce, now let's see how good you are at sieging. You've got fairly low range damage dealers. You've got to get through Caitlyn traps and the risk of a Gragas Alistar engaged. So there's a lot of threat that Splyce have to deal with.
Yeah, but Splyce couldn't be too aggressive here because there were still a few seconds on Kobi's flash, and you always need to respect the all-in from like Mythia and expect to get the onto a Jhin.
Yeah, you never invest in a siege if your flash economics are not in your favor.
Right, it is now though. It is right back up and ready for Kobi, and he's feeling a little bit more confident.
All right, will the investment pay off? Splyce don't have a lot of minions to work with. The bottom wave, by the way, while it is very large in favor of Splyce, it's a very long time away from getting to that tower. So this siege, this Baron buff, more about asserting dominance than necessarily breaking open the base.
Getting a bit of a goal lead with the Baron power play. Oh, they're finding Mickey here.
All right, Mickey's going to jump over the wall. Perks not going to find the kill with that rocket barrage.
That was a big one. The fact that Mickey stayed alive and saved Flash. When you are the engaged support, you really want to have that Flash available. So often with Rakan, you can just close the distance so easily when you have your jump, your flash, your ulti. And you surprise people because they think they're safe when they walk around corners. That little Brute Trinket stays alive.
All right, Kobi, more interested in farming. Literally insta-gibbing the wave.
See what he's
714 attack damage to Fishio. Oh, he's donating. It was part of a plan, right? You want Kobi to get the plus 15.
He's keeping it simple. Only the support is allowed to kill wards.
Yeah, get closer.
Not carries.
Get closer to buying control wards, which, by the way, Splyce have more in their inventory than they have at similar points in the game in previous games.
But right now it's all about items, Trevor. It's all about being as strong as possible for the next big team fight. Expect...
Look at the vision. Look how much control Splyce have in this bottom quadrant, right-hand quadrant. Tower's going to go uncontested.
G2 are like, you know what? We don't even care because we're going to run head first at you anyway. We're all going to see each other in the lane. We're going to wave at each other and then we're going to charge at each other. That is a game plan for both teams, but you always got to remember TP flanks, and that's where these wards could be important, Trevor. If we get, you know, let's pretend Wonder TP's in behind, Sven and Perks have to flash early in a fight, and suddenly...
So you're more interested... Oh, good interrupt there on Wonder. As you're more interested in the TP flanks from Wonder than necessarily Expect or Perks?
Definitely more than Perks' TP flanks. But Expect could also be deadly, but that's kind of a key thing with these late game wards for Splyce is it does set them up to have that potential TP flank. Wonder is going back to base right now. There's so many wards behind G2 if they go for the Elder Drake that Wonder should find his way in with teleport.
Oh, there's so many options here. Trashy's going to make his way up to the river. 10 seconds until Elder Drake is up. G2, are they really going to concede an Elder Drake to a triple Infernal team at 40 minutes into the game?
Oh, they're going for Sunkooks!
Gigantic crit onto Mithy. He's forced away. Mickey gets a knock up onto Trick. The command attack is now moving forward. Trick's going low. 1,000 HP. Gets killed by the deadly flourish. Cataclysm comes down. Sven and Perks running for their life. Tagged up by the curtain call. 3 of the 4 shots hit. With Sven down, how can G2 win a fight? The answer is they can't.
It smells like a game 5, Trevor, because Splyce, they're winning these fights here. Oh, that was a big one.
Gigantic burst of damage onto Perks. Splyce definitely want the EU LCS to play Silver Scrapes here in the quarterfinals, and Splyce want to go all the way.
The tanks with the combination of an Orianna ball and potential shockwave is just so good for Splyce here. The 2 AD carries on the side of G2 cannot get enough damage off in the fights here. They constantly have to run away from the tanks on the side of Splyce, and now they're going for the Nexus turrets.
Zafishio, the shockwave is available. It was just used there. Perks forced to use the package defensively. Minion wave has been killed, but the first Nexus turret is down. Another minion wave is making its way into the base. Jumps over the wall for Splyce as the bottom inner turret is now the target. And Splyce, they don't throw the game away with an over-aggressive push.
Oh, they're staying in the brush. They're all recalling. G2 might try and rush Baron and say, you know what, if you're doing Elder Drake, we're going to give it to you, but we get something in return. Splyce did stop the recalls, except for Wonder, who's already running back from base. So it looks to be a trade. Elder Drake with triple Infernals for Baron. I'll take the Elder Drake personally, because then I can go down and finish the game.
All right, let's see, once that Elder Drake is secured, just how much AD Kobbe has. Baron is secured, Elder is secured. The answer right now, 687 attack damage.
They're going straight for that bot lane inhib. G2 will have to fight against the Elder Drake team. Mickey, just by him like being like, hey guys, I could go in.
Yep, just threatening it. No flash for Mickey. Kobbe's got his up and Senkux does not. Let's see whether or not the engage is necessary. Kobbe's just going to keep pushing that wave out while Perks is on defensive duty. Now, if you look at the minimap, G2's minions are pushing towards the top lane.
But right now, G2's carries are sitting without flashes. They're already afraid of the tank coming towards them with their ball on them from the Orianna. And now they have to respect it even more. It is so hard for both guys to deal damage. They're going in.
All right, Wonder is going in. Flash is still available. The quickness is going to find a charge onto Mithy. Mickey jumps in. He's instantly bursted down. Splyce may have bitten off more than they can chew. Kobbe's forced to run away. He shockwaves from Senkux, at least dissuaded G2. It's a 7,000 gold game, and Splyce have not won yet.
We'll stop a recall from Wonder as well. Rest up Splyce are trying to recall, but Expect he wants to kill Wonder.
All right, Wonder's going to flash over the wall. Should be able to get the Demacian standard and Dragon Strike combo up. Does so to escape. By the way, 42 minutes in, 5-0-10 of Splyce's 16 kills. Trashy's been involved in 15. 6-0-5 on Senkux. For a game that was so even for so long, and then Splyce took over, this is a fantastic performance.
And where Splyce were getting the kills in the early game, it was mid lane.
Yeah.
They were actually going towards Perks. They killed him 3 times, which they used to get further ahead, and then moved to bot lane after and try and get a bit of an advantage. So this has definitely been one of Trashy's best games all year long.
Yeah.
If not the best so far. They've nailed some crucial Sejuani ultis, and while G2 lost the Elder Drake, they stayed alive. They got 1 kill. They forced Splyce away. The Elder Drake buff will run out fairly soon.
If there was ever a time to show up in the deciding game of your quarterfinal, whether you do or die, stay alive, Trashy does so. And just to go back to something we've touched on a few times, but Splyce very clearly playing at a level we have not seen from them, or maybe had not expected from them. A few weeks of prep, a few weeks of question marks have given us a very exciting series.
Definitely benefited Splyce a lot. The fact that they didn't have to really prepare for week 10 due to the game not mattering. Didn't have to show anything to G2 Esports. Saved every single pick they had. Came in with clear plans in the first few games, and then in the last one here they said, you know what, let's go for late game team fights. It's where we've been losing now 2 games in a row. That's what we're investing into, and it's been paying off because they've been actually executing the fights extremely well. G2 are still hoping that their 2 carries sitting on 4 items each can actually win them a fight.
The scary thing is, if Sven or Perks don't go down early, they probably can.
They probably can, but they're just so afraid because you have to sit on auto attack. There's no burst from G2.
Yeah.
There's no shockwave, bam, someone is dead, that's it. It's longer form fights where Splyce have that potential to say, if we get onto one of you guys, we can kill you instantly. Also because you have a 780 Jhin. If he has a crit loaded up and he flashes and crits Sven in the face,
you're gone.
That's pretty much a guaranteed kill.
Ardent Sensor was picked up by Mickey as the 4th item, by the way. So not the traditional build we're used to seeing.
But again, he also has a Jhin 80 carry, so not exactly the big Ardent Sensor you want to buff up. It's not like Tristana or something where you just like all auto attack based purely. The Jhin is much more about his abilities as well.
I'm hearing that Stats team has informed me when Mickey's Ardent Sensor procs on Cobby is over 820 AD. So if he has a crit lined up and gets on
I really want to see him crit Sven or Perks in the face.
So, challenge to the observers and the replay team. If we can find one of those gigantic crits, give it to us in slow-mo. That's what we want to see.
The game will be over by then.
Before the end of the game. Oh, I'm sure in one of the team fights it'll happen.
Yeah, but then if he gets it off, he will win the team fight and the game is done.
Well, we'll find out. And if the game is done, it means there's one more game. There's time to show that replay to Fischio.
That's fine.
All right, teleport from Perks into his own base to try and defend. So no longer pushing in the bottom lane. A swift translation to the mid lane. It's a straight line as Splyce don't get themselves any autos yet. But they need to deal with the mini wave pushing towards him in the bottom lane. A lot of damage onto the enemy. There's the engage. Sven's already escaped with the QSS. Up in the front line, Mithy tries to get the pulverized down.
Where's the shockwave?
Locks in 4. The shockwave deletes G2 Esports, and G2 are destroyed. Their base is in tatters, and expect will go down. Killed by Cobby. The base is bashed, and Splyce, they force a game 5.
And you asked about the late game team fighting from Splyce. Well, here's your answer. It was great. That last fight, after the ulti from Wonder, it just set up Sengoks for that big shockwave. We were looking for it. Looking for the last game, this game as well. We didn't see it early. Saved it for the very last fight, and then he hits every single carry in G2.
Fischio, what a fantastic series. Not only is it the very first time that G2 has performed poorly enough to be in a quarterfinal, it's the first time they've been pushed to a game 5.
It's the first time Splyce have been good enough to challenge them to take it all the way to game 5. They lost the finals in Summer Split 3-1 against G2, and there was pretty one-sided games towards the end in favor of G2 Esports.
It was.
Not this time, not this time.
It normally is. It's normally G2 adapting and changing in the series and then crushing the life out of their opponents. We're ready for game 5, but what on earth happens? Because Splyce made a huge pivot in their pick and ban strategy.
And I think you should do the same again. Because G2 Esports is not the kind of team that will just destroy you in the early game and run away with the whole thing. They're very clearly invested heavily into the later game fights.
Yep.
Splyce said, we will match that, and then we'll just outplay you in those fights. So those 280 carries that need like a lot of time to kill the tanks, well, here's a shockwave in your face. Damn, you're dead. Okay, fight is over. So Splyce right now can go for the late game fights again. G2 Esports might try and do exactly the same, and then you have the same kind of game as we just saw.
I've asked a few questions. I'm just going to narrow it down to 2. Is Splyce good enough to take down G2 Esports? They're even at 2-2.
Yes.
And then the real question, which I asked too early, and now is extremely pertinent, is the G2 era over? That's what I'm asking you guys. Jump on Twitter, let us know. Splyce, with the series on the line, they took down the Kings of Ryu. Analyst desk, go for it.
Oh man, I am flabbergasted just as much as you see. After that game, that gets the blood pumping. That was a very exciting game, and that brings us to game 5. So let's take a look at how we got here. Let's take a look at the final fight to start with, because, you know, you think Splyce has it, but they need to make the right engage.
Yeah, and you need to keep your eyes on that Orianna ball. Just keep looking at its positioning, because there you can see it at the front of the fight. The Jarvan goes in, massive shockwave to swing the fight in your favor. And we were talking about how there were flashes available on so many members of G2, but they were so focused on the Jarvan in front of them that they were not expecting a sudden shockwave to come out from behind, and that is what allowed Splyce to get that massive game-ending fight and win the game.
Fevin, what did you make of the Orianna play by Senku in the game, but just by him overall, because he was considered, right, in the series, not on the level of Perks before coming into it, but I feel like he's really held his own so far.
Yeah, I think this Orianna ult was really good, because usually when you play Orianna, you don't have like those insta shield ults, which you saw here. You have more like the QW ult, but here he insta E, insta ult, so it was really hard to see. And also there was a lot of members on top, so it was really hard to see. And then I think Senku is actually outperforming Perks in this series. Like teamfight positioning, laning phase is equal or ahead every game, and I feel like his priority in picks is also really good. So yeah, I think he's playing really well actually.
Yeah, over the 4 games, I don't have as a clear vision of it, but I know for this last game specifically, what you're saying about Perks and teamfight positioning, it was definitely true. He had a very, very rough game. He gave up a lot of kills. And also in this next replay we're going to take a look at, even though that is not the focal point, it is the Baron fight where Varius and Prolly just want to take a look at a lot of different things. So Prolly, take this one away.
This one is really good because it's like G2 kind of calling them on their Baron play, and Splyce just have to run because they can't burn Baron anymore. And this is the point of the team fight where G2 is going to start winning this fight if they play it out correctly. Like Mithy is zoning 2 carries. Right now their tank line is split up. Like they can't really get to spin anymore. And if we roll this out slowly, just watch Perks, because his positioning right now is good. And he's going to run too close to Mickey X. And right now this fight is, the carries are doing no damage from Splyce. Now he runs into Mickey X, gets comboed, and just gets one shot. And this is actually a fight where Sven is just free hitting the tanks, and Splyce's carries are actually out of position until Perks kind of gives them that window to join in again.
Yeah. It was a really impressive fight overall. And this, again, this is the second half of the fight where you start to think that, oh, even though G2 lost the initial part of it, you still have the positioning of Sven, you still have the front line of Expect and Trick. Senkux is low, he doesn't have, he still has the Shockwave ready and available, so you still think that this fight could still go either way. But then when you see the rest of the fight play out, the fact that Kobe can rejoin the fight, that's where things end up heavily in the favor of Splyce.
And overall, I think we've seen very just high level, I would say, team fights throughout the game. It's always hard to tell because you never know if you're looking at a bad game or a good game, but I feel like it ends on being a good game and strong team fights in this game specifically, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jhin and Rakan is a pretty hard combination to make work, really, because you have no big tank killers on that team, so it really relies on like Rakan getting to the squishies and then having that follow-up go in. And they're actually all really on the same page. Like whenever Mickey X went in, everyone else had skills to follow, and it wasn't really like, yeah, he's going in solo or anything like that.
Also, before the series, probably you had kind of called out the bottom lane and said, hey, I want to see proactivity. I want to see playmaking potential from that bottom lane and a Rakan for Mickey and what he did with it. Turns out that that's great. And it also turns out, if we take a look at Game 5 now, that drafting heavy team fighting compositions for Splyce and maybe giving up a bit of the early game pressure is the way to go, because it looks like, Febivin, they are just as good as team fighting as G2 is. So is that then the game plan for Splyce? Just go all in on team fights?
Yeah, I would keep picking like Jarvan, maybe Renekton for Wunder actually. I'm not sure if he prioritizes it, but I think if they keep Senkux on Orianna or like a Syndra even, and then Trashy has been playing really well actually, like on his tanks. Especially this Sejuani game, he has really good punishments on Perks and catching him out. And also Mickey X Rakan was really impressive. And I don't think they have to go like full team fighting, but it's something for sure that works.
This is what we were talking about in the last AD segment of what we wanted to see change from Splyce, where they've been drafting slightly odd compositions where things look really good, and then Wunder, I believe, picked a bit of a selfish top laner, and yeah, sure, it's great for him, the 1v1, and he has great side lane threat, but it doesn't work well with the team. We saw him go for the Jarvan this time. We saw what Splyce can do with the team, and throughout this series, we've seen them consistently get early leads because they've regularly been punishing the mistakes we've been seeing from Perks. And I know that we did see quite a few mistakes from Perks throughout this game specifically, which is where Splyce were able to get such a big early advantage.
Also, earlier we saw the stat there of a peculiar trend in picks and bans over 4 games, 1580 carry bans so far, which is pretty high. Probably, do you have any explanation or insight into why that is?
I don't know. I think right now there's just like clear standouts in like Kalista, Tristana. And so it's kind of like, yeah, sure, you can trade them, but it's like you give away Kalista, and you'll take like maybe the Tristana or Xayah in return. So now you're worried about like early game, Kalista is going to be stronger than any AD carry. Mid game, she has like really hard engage. And then if you're also wanting to trade, like maybe they'll take the Tristana. Now you have to be worried about like, well, Tristana late game is pretty strong. So it's kind of like Kalista and Tristana taken out, all AD carries kind of become a lot more equal. Like Caitlyn sure has like bigger laning phase and stuff like that. But other than Kalista, Caitlyn, or Tristana and Kalista, I think all AD carries are like pretty even. So the more bans that come in, I feel like are just, I don't know, people have throwaway bans and they just want to keep banning stuff and see how much they can play.
All right, we'll maybe have to ask some of the teams later. But with all that, all the bans and all the picks, 4 games, we now are going to game 5. So the big question is, as Trevor posed it there, is Splyce strong enough to take down G2 for the very first time in their career, to make it to the semifinals and to deny the G2 dynasty the shot at the throne? Fedius, you can go first.
I genuinely believe that Splyce can make it, and I think that they will, in fact, take game 5.
Right. Febvin?
Yeah, I really hope Splyce wins too. It would be sad for my boy Perks, but you know, like they have the momentum now. Game 4, they played really good. I think all individually their players. So yeah, G2 might be a bit tilted off the earth, but I think it will be really close again, and I hope Splyce wins.
All right, let's turn it on its head for Prolly. Then how does G2 now win this 5th game?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say I think G2 will still take this. Like, I mean, Splyce is playing really, really well for sure. But I think these losses that G2 are getting are off of just like really lost focus from the team. I mean, like
From the team.
From the team. Maybe a certain player, but overall the team. I mean, even Sven didn't flash that Warrior ult in the last fight. Like these are mistakes that I think they can just stop doing if they really put the effort into it. So I don't think it's far off from them. So I would still give the advantage to G2 here.
All right, it's been very entertaining.
No.
No?
I mean, I'm not playing. I'm not going to help them win at all. So just me saying that doesn't mean anything.
You really want to face G2.
I kind of don't want to beat them.
All right, we're trying to be objective in the analysis, not in who you're going to face later down,
Down
the line. And I was a bit salty at the beginning of the day that we hadn't gotten like a very close matchup yesterday and all the other regions had, but this one is exciting. Splyce, they have a chance to take their first series against G2 in the history of the EU LCS. It all comes down to game 5, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. That's not Silver Scrapes.
They could try and get a flash. Now the flag is down.
All right, body slam connects, body. Wow, so simple. Oh, very good lockdown onto Perks. Interrupted the Valkyrie. That's a kill.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that was so well done. So 1 and 2. 3rd connects through. The 4th does as well. A 3-man knockup. They've taken down Perks, a defensive flash from Miffy, the tower dive from Splyce, and they get themselves 3. Sven is being jumped on, gets caught up by the deadly flourish. Cobby turns the attention, Perks is down, huge damage. How can G2 win a fight? The answer is they can't.
It smells like a game 5, Trevor. What's the shockwave?
Locks in 4, the shockwave deletes G2 Esports. Base is bashed, and Splyce, they force a game 5.